Another new day and another fabulous new lecture. New day, new lecture, and brand new marks for all CA inter and CA final students. Today we're tackling a topic which is slightly different. This morning when I woke up, it was Eid, but people didn't know when is Eid. Is it today or is it tomorrow? The time was of significance, the time was a little confusing. And I remembered in GST also, there's a chapter called Time of Supply, where when is the time of supply is a big question mark for every student. Unfortunately, the law is made in such a manner that it's a little confusing to figure when exactly is the time of supply, and that's where Smart Quickies come into picture. Smart Quickies are really short videos that uncomplicate really complex tax topics and help you score great marks in your CA exams. Guys, this next Smart Quickie is going to solve your problem with respect to time of supply. Not the entire time of supply, we are not doing the entire chapter, but one really important provision, two important sections which are dealt with amazing shortcut that I'm just going to put ahead in the next few minutes. Welcome to Smart Quickies. So in GST, we have a topic called time of supply. First, a little about why is this chapter there? Because the government wants GST from us, but it's not that the government will wait for our GST. That's the reason time of supply is very important, because the moment there is time of supply which is determined, the government wants a tax by the next month at least. So time of supply basically for the government and for our exam, it's always earliest of the following. Why earliest? Because the government doesn't wait when it's respect to tax. So the moment time of supply is determined, the government should be expecting the tax, and hence it's earliest of the following. This is something that you should keep in mind. Guys, whenever there is time of supply, there are two sections and two sections only. One is section 12 and another one is section 13, and both are of the CGST Act. As you know, most of our GST Act sections are basically the CGST Act 2017. So 12 and 13. And 12 is when there is time of supply in case of goods. And of course, just the mirror, 13 is when there is time of supply in case of services. So if you're selling air conditioners, then you belong under section 12. But if you're selling CA services, then you belong under section 13. Now, in that case, we're not doing the entire 12 and entire 13. There is time of supply in case of RCM, reverse charge mechanism. A quick revision of what is RCM. Guys, this is the supplier. This is the supplier. And let's say the supplier is an agriculturalist who's supplying tobacco. And they are supplying it to a recipient. And let's say this recipient is a company called ITC, which makes cigarettes, who's buying the tobacco. They'll buy it for 10 lakh rupees. On that, let's say the GST is 1 lakh 20. But what ITC, the recipient, will pay to the supplier that is an agriculturalist is only 10 lakh in this case, because this supply comes under RCM, and the remaining 1 lakh 20 they are supposed to directly pay to the government. Guys, this is what RCM talks about. And a shortcut to remember RCM is, guys, RCM, R for RCM, R for recipient. The recipient has to make the payment directly to the government. Now the point is, we know recipient has to pay, we know 1 lakh 20 has to be paid, but when is it supposed to be paid? That's the question, guys. When is it supposed to be paid? So the time of supply in case of goods under RCM is dealt with section 12(3). This, guys, is time of supply of goods which are subject to RCM. In our example, an agriculturalist supplying tobacco to ITC is a classic case of RCM supplies. Now let's see, guys, what is the shortcut for this. The shortcut for this, and what you have to remember, the only sentence you have to remember, which will help you figure out the answer very, very easily, is the recipient pays in 31 entirely. So the focus is on the recipient. Everything here is on the recipient, and the shortcut is recipient pays in 31 entirely. There are 4 dates you need to figure from your exam question. The 4 dates are recipient pays in 31 entirely. First is receipt of goods. When did ITC receive the tobacco? Let's put the date of today, that is 13th May. When did they make the payment? Let's say generally ITC makes a payment after a couple of months, and payment basically means from whose perspective? Always from the recipient's perspective, because we're under RCM. So let's say they made the payment on 13th of November, and payment as per the books of accounts or bank account, whichever is earlier. So we are done with receipt of goods. We're done with payment date. Now 31st day from the date of invoice. Let's say the date of invoice was 1st of May. So 31 days from there, basically that means 1st of June. So your invoice 31 days from invoice. In some books it's written 30 days, but that is because 30 days after the date of invoice. It looks wherever you look at, but I prefer to look at it from the invoice date, 31 days. So let's say that is 1st of June. And the earliest of these dates will be the time of supply, guys. Always remember earliest of the three. Now 13th May, 13th November, 13th June. So earliest date is 13th May. And guys, that will be the time of supply. So then where is this entirely gone? Why didn't we use this? Guys, in case you don't have any of these three dates, in case you don't have the receipt date of the goods, in case you don't have the payment, in case you don't have invoice 31 days from the date of invoice, if you don't have any of these three dates, sorry, in case you don't have all these three dates, that means you have nothing of this, only then you will look at E. E is basically the entry in the books of accounts of ITC. When did they enter in the books of accounts? That will be the time of supply. So guys, time of supply for goods under RCM is one shortcut, a very simple sentence: recipient pays in 31 entirely. Check out the four dates from any question, remove these four dates, and the earliest of the three will be the time of supply. In case the three, all of them are not given, then you will look at entry. That's the last resort. Recipient pays in 31 entirely. This is section 12.3, time of supply of goods under RCM. Let's do a quick sum and let's understand, or let's put it into application whatever we've learned. Guys, always when you get a GST sum, always make a diagram the way I'm going to make it right now. Determine the time of supply, okay, for the given information, assuming that goods are being supplied under reverse charge. So it's goods under reverse charge, time of supply, so section 12.3. Now in section 12.3, supplier, so there is a supplier, I'm drawing it here, supplier. He makes supply to a company called Bridge and Company. So there is a supplier and there's a recipient. All the focus on recipient because we're under RCM. You don't have to read the sum also, guys. Just write those four words. The recipient pays in 31, and entirely only if these three are not there. So let's see receipt of goods. Supplier invoices the goods taxable on reverse charge basis. 30 days from the date of issuance of invoice is June 3rd. Guys, they've given you 30 days from the date of issuance of invoice elapses on June 3rd. So this one is June 4th. Because the 30 days elapsed on June 3rd, we need the 31st day. Next, Bridge and Company receives the goods on May 12th. So I'm just plugging the date, receipt of goods. And Bridge and Company makes the payment on 30th May. So I'm just writing the three dates. Recipient pays in 31 entirely. We don't have to go because we already have these three dates. Now, guys, the earliest of the three looks like May 12th. So May 12th is when it will be time of supply. So Bridge and Company, the time of supply of goods under RCM is May 12th. It's so simple. This is so simple as long as you remember recipient pays in 31 entirely. Let's move to services now. Very, very simple and the same shortcut even for services. Let's see how that goes. In case of services, it is exactly the same, but this side, section 12.3 was for goods, and exactly the same section 13.3 is time of supply. In the case of services, under RCM. So let's take an example, guys, of an RCM supplier services. There's a huge list, and one of them is lawyer. Let's say a lawyer is supplying services to Mr. A or ABC, a business entity, and the services are worth 10 lakh rupees. On that, there is GST of 1 lakh 80. Mr. A will pay the lawyer only 10 lakhs because the supply is under RCM. So Mr. A, who is the recipient, this guy who is the recipient, he will pay the government 1 lakh 80,000 of GST under RCM, which is great. This concept is great. But again, guys, when does he have to pay to the government? That is what we are discussing. That is RCM supplies time of supply. So again, the same thing, guys. Again, recipient pays in 31 entirely. Write the sentence and now wait. Guys, in case of services, there is no one receipt date. When you receive lawyer services, the lawyer might start servicing today, but the case might end after 6 months. So there is no one date for receipt of services. So we'll cancel this receipt out from the shortcut. Of course, payment date remains the same. In 31, instead of 31 in services, you have slightly more time. So in 61 from the date of invoice. And of course, entry in the books of accounts of the recipient remains the same. So you'll write recipient pays in 31 entirely. You'll remove recipient because receipt of services, there's no one particular date. So remove that. And in case of in 31, you do in 61 entirely. So when did Mr. A make the payment? So let's say the payment was made today, 13th May. When is the 61st day of the date of invoice? Let's say that is 15 June. And between these two, whichever is earlier, 13th May will be the time of supply of these legal services. I hope you understood this. Let's practically put it in a question right here, right away. Again, guys, any question of GST, the moment you draw a diagram, it will become very, very simple. Determine the time of supply. from the given information, assuming that service being supplied is under reverse charge. So service under reverse charge time of supply is section 13.3. There is a supplier. There is a dispute about the payment. So, okay, so supplier has supplied some services to the recipient. There's a dispute of payment. All right, let's see. You don't have to see the sum at all, guys. Just plug in the shortcut. Recipient pays in 31 entirely. Now, because it's services, you remove recipient and you change this to 61. And let's see the payment date, guys. August 21, payment made to the supplier of service. So in case there are two dates, bank books of accounts or bank account, whichever is earlier, here there's only one date. So I'm writing that August 21. Next, 61 days from the date of invoice. Guys, the invoice was issued on 4th of May. So 4th May, June, and 4th July. Guys, 4th July was the 61st day from the date of invoice, and whichever is earlier, guys, 4th July will be considered the time of supply under section 13.3. Congratulations, recipient pays in 31 entirely is going to save your day every time you get a time of supply question in the exam. Guys, time of supply is something very daunting. A lot of people get confused because there are so many dates. But in my shortcuts, you don't even have to go to the sum first. Write the shortcut and fetch those dates from the sum, and you'll get your answer right always and every time. All the best, and watch out for more such smart quickies. Also, guys, there are lots of revision lectures and other lectures that I'm posting. Watch them, score great marks in your exam, and all the best.